Hello and welcome to T9A in Bavaria. I'm just Flo and I'm live. Well, today I'm talking about this year's balance patch. What's that about? Well, quite a lot of things. But haven't we had balancing patches a lot? Quite some, but some things are new. So how was it done so far? Well, we basically collected take rates and compared them to the ideal take rates of things. So for example, if an army has 5 characters, ideally each one of them should be taken at 20%, or at least 20% taken at least once per army. So that would be the ideal. But of course, so there have to be a certain room. So then later we would have looked on how much the difference between the actual taking and the ideal taking is. And then we would do like if it's under 10% of the ideal take rate, red alert. If it's like over 190% of the ideal take rate, red alert. Of course, there's some things in between, but that's basically the thing. So, yes, there's a broad or width in which an entry can be without being internal problematic. And that's a quite broad range, but once you leave that range, it's very likely that something has and will be done. But that's only the internal balance. The external balance, well, we had a look at how the armies performed at tourneys, how the final ranking was, and with that and some other methods, a tier list was created. And then the thing was, okay, this army is above average, this army is below average. Also the expected wanted average. Okay, is it still within a certain frame in which armies we consider balanced or not? And depending on the distance to that frame or to the point where we say an army is balanced, so either more or less global pricing up or pricing downs on different strengths happened that were combined with the internal balancings. So basically, if something was internally imbalanced, but the army was something was far too weak internally because of points, but the army was stomping everything, then well, price might even go up, but not as much up as the one thing which everyone in that army took. Okay. Of course, things could happen like this army is weaker than expected, but that thing here is taken in every list, so the rest of the list of the army book goes down, but this one single item goes up, and so on. Well, but basically it was seeing where the armies externally, prices up down, and seeing where the thing is internally up down compared to the rest. Of course, that could lead to things like going up from external balance, going up from internal, or down from both, or things in between. But yes, that basically it was. So basically in the past, the only thing which could be done were point costs and a few things in the arcane compendium, like casting values and in the last years smaller changes to spells. But basic rulebook rules, no. And things in Slam Army books, nope. Only if it's meta dropping. Things like Son Goku, the guy who was able to kill a whole regiment of ogres on his own on the charge. Or things like rebuff and heal at the same time, UD. Okay, but what's different now? Well, this time, not Ogma. We're looking at something which people told us quite a lot. Some people told us every time there are things which can't be fixed by points. But that can't be fixed by points. Well, in some cases, I'm looking at the two scooters. That was not true. I personally believe in most cases. But yeah, there are some cases where those guys were right and I was wrong. For example, the third hereditary. I know, if you guys love him, if you guys have good results with him, but for most of the people out there, it won't change if you increase the range, decrease the range, if we change the casting value, many won't take it. There's surely other things. And here, there's the thing. This time, you can do something on things which just don't work. Because the design in a card just can't be fixed by points. Well, we will try to find those annoying imperfections in our way, in the T9A way, with you, with the community. Yes, you will be asked to raise a couple of concerns, and they will include entries which needs redesigns. So, where should you send your big package of redesigns? So, telling us exactly what we should do? Well, one step after the other. First step is we collect problems. Community is very good at collecting problems. At a later step, we will work on solutions and likely or possible some of your ACS or you on your own will propose together solutions. But why for your first only problems and not solutions? Well, it's easy. Sometimes people just will agree a unit doesn't work, but they don't agree what on that unit doesn't work. So solutions work around, and the people don't will try solutions for different things, and they get caught so much up in finding solutions for problems they haven't clearly defined that it's really difficult to work on it. Really difficult. So what to do? Well, solutions, not problems. Again, solutions? Nah, of course, problems, not solutions. Ha! You almost had me. Well, that basically means you tell us why something should be fixed, and partly together with you, and partly together with other teams, we'll work on the problems. So, if you know the unit isn't killy enough for you, there are like 100 different ways how the unit can be made more killy. Or if you know something is too resilient, there are like hundreds of ways a unit can be made more resilient. So basically, yeah, it brings much more to focus on the problems. Because one solution could be a solution for 100 problems or not, or create new problems. So if you know your problem, we can find the solutions which don't create new problems. We can do that partly together with you, but yeah. So how is it going on? You collect, you give your input. Basically in the army specific threads, here they're listed. Yes, Saurian Ancient will have a new army book before the balance patch hits. As you know, usually books come out on Thursdays. As you're listening to this stream today, I guess it's not this Thursday. Okay. And then there's a thread about special items, arcane, compendium items. In the past, things like the Relentless banner have been changed, which made problems for book creations and so on. And perhaps you see something equally problematic. Perhaps it's the running banner, or perhaps it's like no one ever is taking item X because it only brings problems for the guy carrying it and so on. Yeah. So there you can bring the problems with general items. Of course, also with spells and so on. And that brings me to something. Orion did make a proposal of rules changes to compendium items affecting the magic phase. Okay. Well, last year, there has been a general move to increase cost of wizards, of wizard masters, and to increase rank and flanking, rank and file. But yeah, so problems are and were. That still a lot of people perceive magic to be far too strong. Here's some proposals from Orion. Get in, discuss, rip the proposal apart, build it back together. Assist us finding out if that's a problem for you too. Yeah. And there's another thing, something like complexity. I know, for some of you guys, the game can't be too complex. For others, it's a tiny bit too many gotcha moments. Gotcha moments? Well, moments like you just oversee a little tiny rule and that basic or effect, and that basically ruins your day in the game. It makes sure the opponent gets you. Gotcha! I have you. Exactly where I wanted. That's it. Well, look, the big truth is we had a lot of threads where we collected your opinions and so on. A lot of complaints about complexity, and also the workings of the teams, developing new things. So become more and more complex and more difficult to not oversee combinations and things getting together, which are problematic. So we're trying, of course, currently that's still good manageable, but well, we've got 8 books more to go. So well, the ACS are currently collecting ideas how to reduce complexity, but not necessarily power or elite of the books. What does it mean? Well, I can have a unit with 7 exceptions from a basic rule. or I can have a unit with only with the basic rule. Okay, I guess you all will agree that a unit having bonus x every time is likely more powerful or stronger than a unit having x on Saturdays against green pointed models owned by a native speaker of whichever language. So, putting out the if and when and then clauses could reduce complexity, for example. Of course, there are some cases where exact search complexity puts in depth. So, basically, we are hunting here for things where the printed text and the effect on the gameplay and the effect on the immersion just is not worth the text, the lines, the words. There are quite a lot of things where it's likely that it can be described easier, perhaps less exceptions, perhaps more basic rules can be used, or rules can be streamlined. For example, we've got border mains and beast herds. We've got the ambush of the underground ambush of UD. We've got the Helmor. We've got the tunnel tokens from Brosman Swarm. I guess we've got likely some other things I forget, which all deal with setting something up on the table, which partly was there before, or comes from there. Also in Kingdom of AQ10, we've got guys ambushing from certain terrains. And if we, for example, we use everywhere the same text, if that does not destroy too much immersion, then likely it's easier. I mean, remember a time where the forcing of challenges worked different in Kingdom of AQ10, in Vampire Covenant, and in Demonic Legion. So a guy remembering the one, not the other, might make different decisions because on wrong information he remembers. If those three things are working like the same, only one thing to remember, not three, and such things. Basically, the things where when you begin to explain your opponent, he starts his head starts to smoking, or you see he is getting down inner. The things where you had more like gotcha moments of the opponent saying, "Oh, what? Does the unit also have?" You said, "Yeah, but I told you before." Yeah, but how should I remember between the 7,000 rules of stacking x over z combined with y and m if z cases exist? Well, which armies we want to be looked at regarding the complexity? Well, that's easy. The thing is, if there's a benchmark, some things have to be below, some things have to be above. And the armies where we would like to reduce complexity. And here, well, you can either go through every board and have a look if there's a complexity thread, or you can listen to me. Red Elves, Demonic Legions, ID, Kingdom of Aquitaine, Orcs and Goblins, UD, Fauci, Vermin Swarm, Warriors of the Dark God. So, basically, what's complexity? Things you need a lot of words to explain, things opponents forget, things people play wrong, and yeah. Basically, the thing we are looking at not at all complexity, but at things which are just not worth the effort. A small buff on Saturday against the green painted models, against because if I'm playing on a blue table and my opponent is wearing a rock, it's high unlikely to be worth the words. Often, rules and constructs used in other books, used again, make things easier. Often, the removal of exceptions makes things easier, and so on. So, have a look at some, calculate and search. Oh, very important, of course. The players of the army shall look for designs which don't work and put in too complex, and the players of against that armies. And to keep them apart, that no fighting happens, different threats for, and yes, their feedback, no discussion threads. So, I hope you enjoyed that information here. What to give you again short recap. Design changes may happen. ACS collect from you. Then narrow it down to a short list. Likely I will tell you what the short list was. Give the short list to LT. LT then has a look on the short list. Checks the problems you gave to ACS. And if they agree and see, yes, it's definitely a problem, then that goes to, so things go to GDT in total. And very likely your ACS will ask yourself for suggestions on that too. So, also, of course, spells and magical items are on the menu. And if you've got general problems which don't affect the rulebook, like with the magic face, do it like Orion. The suggestion board is open, and please remember to tag me and some guys from the team. Okay, guys from the team are a little bit more important for that than me, but just take all of us.